Hi, welcome back to another video. It's been a short while since my last one, but I'm back and I'm really glad that I recorded this speed paint because I'm really proud of how the finished project turned out. I did start with a kind of a different sketch than the one I ended up with, and I'm glad that I changed the sketch, and you can see kind of that cut right there of where I messed more with like 3-point perspective and kind of making sure that it looked how I wanted it to look rather than rushing it, which I think is important. And I think that I tend to rush when it comes to digital art, especially with posting, because when I want to make a post, I want to like post it as soon as possible, and that leads to rushing, which is not good. So I'm glad that I took my time with this, and I hope to do that more in the future. I started with a black background because I knew that I wanted the piece to be like dark overall, but I found out that like you don't have to have a black background throughout the entire process. Like you can have a white background if you want, like while doing line art or coloring. So that was helpful to know I could change the color. And yeah, I'm basically doing the line art. I took a break between that first sketch I did and the final sketch that I did. I took a break between those sketches so I could like kind of self-assess what I liked in the first sketch and what I knew I had to change. And the same way, I also took a break with the line art. And when I was done with the line art, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna color anything just yet. I'm going to take a screenshot of this work in progress, and I'm gonna look at it in a few hours to see what I want to change and what I want to keep. And I think that's really important to do because it's good to like ask your friends for criticism, but it's also important to ask yourself for criticism. And that can be hard, especially if you look at a piece that you've been working on for a couple hours. You kind of get like tunnel vision, and it's hard to see what looks wrong with it, like anatomically speaking or whatever. However, if you take a break and step away from your computer or your desk or wherever you draw, and come back to it, then you allow yourself to give self-criticism, which is important because we cannot always depend on others to give us criticism. I'm blocking in the colors, and I didn't really use too many colors. I knew that I wanted to use a limited color palette, and that's also something that I want to incorporate more into future pieces, is using a more limited color palette, because it always just ends up looking better. It looks more cohesive and more aesthetically pleasing. Of course, there's nothing wrong with using a bunch of colors. A lot of people say like, oh, make sure you don't use a bunch of colors and make sure you only stick to like 3 colors or else it will look bad. But I think that's silly because, you know, there's no wrong way to do art, probably. Don't ask me. You can see I tried designing a poster to put in the background. Those are supposed to be posters. And that did not work out, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna copy and paste Google Images, and I ended up using my chem poster because I needed that like edgy aesthetic. I'm drawing Hatsune Miku, by the way, just pointing that out. I love drawing Miku. I always draw my comfort characters. I find myself drawing, which, I mean, like, that makes sense. I do kind of want to do more original art, though, because I feel like that's a good skill to try to hone in on, you know? Like, I don't know, fan art isn't really, like, widely accepted as, like art. Of course, it's hard to explain. In a professional sense, it's better to do original art rather than fan art, I've found. Not that I've done art professionally before. Another thing I did is, for shading on the skin, I used a contrasting color, that kind of teal, kind of greenish blue color I used in the shadows is more or less like the contrasting color of the peach skin tone on the character's skin. And I think that ended up looking pretty good as opposed to just using like a darker or more saturated or more red skin tone as a shadow. Because, I mean, that works too, but it just makes it look kind of flat, I would say. Whereas this color, it adds dimension, and it's not actually too much darker than the skin tone itself, it's just a different hue. And the way I knew to do that is actually by looking at other people's art. So if you ever want to know like how to improve an art or how to know what art skills that you want to develop, I highly recommend just looking at other people's art online and seeing what you like about their art and quote-unquote copying from them. Of course, not actually copying art, that's illegal and you will go to jail. That's not true. But yeah, copy what you like about other people's art. I also see some of my friends that like to draw. I notice that like sometimes they include things in their art that I put in my art, and I think that's really cool to see, because it's like, oh, I inspired someone to subtly like change their art style because they like my art. And I think that's like the highest compliment you can get, is when someone mimics something that you do in art because they like it so much. That's so cool. I love having art friends. So I'm just adding the final details. I really didn't do too much with the line art. Originally I think I wanted to color in the line art, but at this point I did kind of get tired, and I know I just preached a whole lot about how it's not good to rush, but I did not want to color in all the line art, so I just kind of did some things here and there. And if you see random spots where the speed paint just like stops moving, it's because I was watching something with my friends while painting this, and I was like taking a break from drawing and watching, and then going back to drawing and then watching, so that's what those little pauses are. Anyway, added some stickers, added a little gradient filter, and that was the finished product. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I hope you like it too. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.